Go ahead and open up to Psalm chapter 37, and we'll look at this particular psalm. Psalm 37, this is after this week's study, the promises that are found here and the care of God. It's quickly becoming one of my favorite psalms. There's a common theme throughout this particular psalm. There's several, actually, several ideas that are repeated several different times in several different locations, talking about several different things. And one of those is this idea and this phrase of being cut off. Being cut off. And you know what it means to be cut off, right? Brittany the other day made a bunch of zucchini bread. And if anybody wants zucchini bread, we've got it coming out of our ears. But you take a piece of that bread, and guess what you do? You take a knife through it, and you cut it off. And then you proceed to eat it. So what you're left with is a remnant from the whole, right? Being cut off. This is no longer attached to what it was before. So this idea of being cut off is an idea, a theme that runs through Psalm chapter 37, nearly from the beginning all the way to the end. And it's actually said, used 5 different times. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through Psalm chapter 37, and we're going to look at each of those and the context in which it's found, and then hopefully towards the end we're going to draw some type of conclusion looking at this. But the first one is found in verse 9. So let's read verse 9 together. For the evildoers shall be cut off, but those who wait for the Lord shall inherit the land. The evildoers will be cut off. Again, you have this, the idea is you have this relationship applied, zucchini bread, to your spiritual life. You don't get this stuff anywhere else you go, okay? You take this life, this spiritual walk that you once had with God, and you are cut off. When we practice evil, we are cut off from God. We are no longer part of Him. We are removed from Him. So the evildoers here are the ones that are, in verse 9, they are the ones that are cut off. They're the ones that are removed from their previous relationship with God. Now we know that Christians are not supposed to be ones who do evil. I read one commentary, and they said that the evildoer here is not someone that does it once or maybe twice or stumbles on doing evil every once in a while, but the evildoer is someone who tends only to evil. This is their mode of thinking. Someone who is focused only on doing evil. There is no righteous thought in their mind. They're not focused on pleasing God. They're not focused on anyone else. Not loving God, not loving your neighbor, right? We talked about this morning. So their focus is on doing evil. This is what they live for. This is what they're looking forward to. This is the one that does evil. And that's the opposite of what Paul tells us to do. If you flip on over to Romans chapter 12 and you look in verse 9, it says this: let love be genuine. Look at it. Abhor what is evil, hold fast to what is good. Abhor, hate what is evil, and hold fast to what is good. Hold fast. First of all, you hate what is evil. How easy is it when evil is surrounding you? When you're constantly bombarded with evil thoughts, I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, it's from politics to Hollywood to your workplace. It's literally everywhere, and it's hard to escape. But when you are completely surrounded, so many times it seems like, by evil, how easy is it to not hate it? How easy is it just to accept it? And just to accept, you know what, that's the way of the world. But what he tells us here is to abhor it, to hate it, to have a disdain for what is evil, and hold fast, to cling to what is good. That's husband and a wife should leave father and mother and what? Hold fast to one another. They're clinging to one another. There is no separation that happens there. You're holding fast. The idea, the image that comes to my mind is you're climbing a rock. You're free climbing, okay? For some reason, this is what you're doing. You're free climbing, scaling this mountain. The last thing you want to do is let go, right? You're holding fast. Hold fast to what is good. Hate, abhor, detest what is evil. The evil doer, the one that tends only to evil, the evil doer will be cut off. The next verse where this idea of evil or this idea of being cut off is found is in verse 22. If you want to flip over to verse 22, back in Psalm chapter 37. For those blessed by the Lord shall inherit the land, but those cursed by him shall be cut off. The one who is cursed by him shall be cut off. The one cursed by God. That may not sound like God to you, does it? God doesn't curse people. Apparently, this verse is talking about those who are cursed by him. In the context here, if we back it up and we put it in its proper context of what he's talking about, back in verse 21, the wicked borrows but does not pay back. The righteous is generous and gives. For those blessed by the Lord shall inherit the land, but those cursed by him shall be cut off. It's in the context back in verse 21 about being selfish. The one that borrows but doesn't repay. But the righteous, on the other hand, is generous, and they don't require anything, and they have an open hand policy, right? It's kind of like what you have with your kids, right? You open your wallet and you just whatever you need, right? Just come and get it. That's the generous person. That is the righteous person here in this context. On the other hand, the opposite of that is this wicked person. This wicked person, they take advantage of the open hand policy and they never return. Christianity it's a selfless life. It's the opposite of being selfish. Christianity, it's not about us. It's about other people. It's about God. And that's, what we talked about this morning, Matthew chapter 22. Love God, love your neighbor. You are nowhere to be found. Christianity is completely selfless. Christianity is all about other people. If you want selfishness, all you got to do is look around in the world. But if you want selflessness, what you got to do is you got to look at Christians. You got to look in the church. It's what Paul writes to the church at Philippi, and he says this in Philippians chapter 2. Beginning in verse 3, he says, "Do nothing from rivalry or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interest, but also to the interests of others." This life is not about you. If we have this atmosphere of selfishness, what difference is that between us and the world? But if we have this attitude amongst ourselves of selflessness, where we put other people above ourselves, where we are more considerate about others, when we count others more significant than ourselves, when we do nothing from rivalry or selfish ambition, how different is that? When someone sees that quality, isn't that attractive? When you see someone who is selfless and self-sacrificing, don't you want to be around that person? Don't you find yourself drawn to that person that is always concerned about other people? The one that you call and they're on death's doorstep. Hey, just calling to check on you, see how you're doing. Oh, I'm okay. How are you? How are the kids? Those people, the ones that are selfless, the ones that are always worried about other people, they're not here, so I'll tell you about them. But Charlie and Julia, goodness gracious, you talk about two stubborn old coots. But those two, I said, Julia, how are you doing? And she says, oh, I'm fine, I'm doing good. She hadn't been good in a long time. And she said, I'm worried about Charlie. Charlie, how you doing? Oh, I'm good, I'm all right. I'm breathing, I'm upright, but I'm worried about Julia. Selflessness. Isn't that the attitude that we're required to have? A selfless attitude where it's not about me, right? It's about the other people. Have this attitude among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus. Then he goes on to describe the ultimate example, and the ultimate example is Jesus. Jesus, although he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself, taking on the form of a servant, humbling himself to the point of death. Be like Jesus. The Christian is selfless. The wicked are selfish. So the wicked are cut off. Those who are cursed from the Lord are those who are selfish. Go back to Psalm chapter 37. We're going to look at the third instance that this is used. Those who are evildoers, those who are cursed by the Lord, and those children. Children are cut off. Now before I get stoned, let's go and read this and put it in context, okay? Look at verse 28. For the Lord loves justice. He will not forsake his saints. They are preserved forever, but the children of the wicked shall be cut off. The children of the wicked shall be cut off. Now again, you may be thinking, well, that doesn't sound much like God. Cutting off the wicked, the children of the wicked. I mean, you can't help what your parents do. You can't help. You can only control your circumstances. Why would God cut off the children of the wicked? Well, we're working under a single assumption here. The apple hasn't fallen far from the tree. Because if we mesh this idea with the rest of Scripture, Ezekiel chapter 18, verse 20, with the evil aren't going to perish because of the parents, right? So how is this possible? I believe the idea rests in total destruction, where God is wiping out everything. Even your most prized possession, your children. If you practice wickedness, the idea is that God is in complete control. If we could put a parallel passage with this, I think it would probably be apt if we put Psalm chapter 21 with it. And maybe that's what you want to do right out beside it, Psalm chapter 21, because I think it fits and maybe elaborates a little bit for us, giving us a better understanding of what he's talking about here. Psalm chapter 21 and verse 8, it says, your hand will find out all your enemies. Your right hand will find out those who hate you. You will make them as a blazing oven, talking about God. You will make them as a blazing oven when you appear. The Lord will swallow them up in his wrath, and fire will consume them. You will destroy their descendants from the earth, and their offspring from among the children of man. You see there? Verse 11, though they plan evil against you, though they devise mischief, they will not succeed, for you will put them to flight. And you will aim at their faces with your bows. I've always thought that was interesting. There's a couple of times in the scriptures where that idea comes up. You will aim at their faces with your bows. I'm telling you something. Russ, you're going to be my demonstration. But if you're pulling back a bow and arrow at somebody's face, you're not going to miss. You know what I'm saying? You're going to aim. You're going to aim at their faces. That is the certainty with which God approaches judgment. There's no misunderstanding. There's no correcting it. It is what it is, and God has said what he says. And God's word will always stand. But here in this passage, if we pair it and maybe use it to commentate on chapter 37, it says that he is going to appear. He's going to swallow the enemy. The enemies of God. He is going to swallow them up, and fire, he's going to consume them. And then in the middle of that, he talks about their descendants. Wipe you totally out. Nothing left. Even your descendants, even your name is going to be destroyed. I think that's the idea that we have here. When you are cut off from God, it's your name, it's your descendants, your heritage. You are going to be totally annihilated when you are an enemy of God. Those who are evildoers, the children of the wicked, when the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree. Those who are cursed by God. And number 4, the fourth time it's used is in verse 34. When he talks about the wicked. Wait for the Lord and keep his way, and he will exalt you to inherit the land. You will look on when the wicked are cut off. When the wicked are cut off. Well, let's go back and really quickly, since I've got your attention, and you can get up and leave if you want to, but I'll mark you. Let's go back in Psalm chapter 37 and look at all the other times that the wicked are mentioned, okay? And then we'll come back to our passage in verse 34. First of all, it's mentioned in verse 12. The wicked, look at what the wicked does. The wicked plots against the righteous and gnashes his teeth at him. Used again in verse 14, the wicked draw the sword and bend their bows to bring down the poor and needy, to slay those whose way is upright. The third time is in verse 20. Look at what it says there. But the wicked will perish. The enemies of the Lord are like the glory of the pastures. They vanish like smoke. They vanish away. In verse 21, again, the wicked borrows but does not pay back. In verse 32, it's used another time. The wicked watches for the righteous and seeks to put him to death. In verse 35, I have seen a wicked, a ruthless man spreading himself like a green laurel tree. And verse 38, and we'll look at this one later on, but transgressors shall be altogether destroyed. The future of the wicked shall be cut off. They're used in conjunction with a transgressor. The wicked are cut off from God. I mean, you go back and you look at some of those instances. I mean, they plot against the righteous. They take advantage of the poor. They are enemies of God. I mean, this is the wicked is being the exact opposite of God, isn't it? Because God takes care of the righteous. God takes care of the poor. God takes care of the needy. God takes care of those who are less fortunate. And the wicked do the opposite. They plan evil. God plans good. It reminds me of, we're familiar with John chapter 3 and verse 16, but this reminds me of the text that follows that. Immediately following that in chapter 3 and verse 20, for everyone who does wicked things hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his work should be exposed. But whoever does what is true comes to the light, so that it may be clearly seen that his works have been carried out in God. God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. The wicked hates the light. The wicked are the exact opposite of God, being like God. The last time cut off here is used is in verse 38. And here, their future is cut off. The future of the wicked, we've already looked at it. The future of the wicked is cut off. But transgressors shall be altogether destroyed. The future of the wicked shall be cut off. I'll tell you, it is a bleak and it is a dismal future as the wicked person looks ahead. But it is a glorious, bright, joy and hope-filled future for the righteous. The wicked, the future of the wicked shall be cut off. The righteous, on the other hand, they have a future because they will inherit the land. They will inherit the land. Go back and look at this with me. Here's another common theme through chapter 37. If you are keeping notes or you keep notes, take a journey with me. Let's go back to verse 9, the first time that this is used. For the evildoers shall be cut off, but those who wait for the Lord, look at it, shall inherit the land. Go to the next time that this is used. Look at verse 22. For those blessed by the Lord shall inherit the land, but those cursed by him shall be cut off. Look at it again with me. Verse 29. We looked at verse 28 where it cut off is used, but look at the next sentence. The righteous shall inherit the land and dwell upon it forever. Verse 34 we looked at. Wait for the Lord and keep his way, and he will exalt you to inherit the land. You will look on when the wicked are cut off. And it's used again in verse 11. Inherit the land. The wicked, get this, the wicked are going to be cut off. You got the zucchini bread? You're taking a slice, and now we're not just cutting it off, we're throwing it away. The wicked are going to be put away from God. But the righteous, there is something better prepared for you. You will inherit the land. You see, cut off is used 5 times. Inherit the land is used 5 times. You're cut off if you're wicked, but there's hope if you're righteous. If you're with God, there's a land that is coming. If you're with the devil, the future is bleak. I, myself, am looking forward to a city not built with hands. That's the land that I want to inherit. Whose builder and maker is God. That's where I want to go. That's what I'm looking forward to. I want to inherit that land. That's my goal. That's my aim. If you're not on that path, why not? The future, any other future, is incredibly dark and dismal. But a future with God is a future where you will not be cut off, where there is hope. If you need God, if you need hope or peace as you sleep tonight, I want to invite you to come as we stand and as we sing.